Welcome to video number 16 of the Blue Book on Introduction to Signals. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the use of signals. The Blue Book provides multiple signals, but for now we are going to cover just the use of the signal called C. A signal is a shorthand message telling the reader the type of support the cited authority provides. It shows the relationship between the text and the citation. Signals, like case names, must be underlined or italicized. Signals can either be capitalized or in lower case. Signals are capitalized when used to begin a citation sentence, but are in lowercase when used to begin a citation clause, or in other words, when they are not in the beginning of a sentence. Here is an example of each. The first example is where C is capitalized because it's at the beginning of a citation sentence. The second example of C is not capitalized because it is a citation clause embedded within the textual sentence. To better understand signals, let's first examine what it means when there is no signal, which is what we've been doing all along. Using no signal means that what you are citing clearly supports or identifies what was said. There are three situations in which you would use no signal. If you are citing an authority 1, that directly supports the proposition of your writing, 2, that identifies the source of a quotation, or 3, that identifies an authority referred to in the text. Let's look at some examples. All of the following citations are to the Loving v. Virginia decision by the United States Supreme Court. In this first example, the sentence refers to the outcome of the court's decision in Loving v. Virginia that the Virginia laws prohibiting interracial marriage are unconstitutional. Because this information was directly stated by the court in Loving v. Virginia, it's appropriate to cite directly to the case without using a signal. In the second example, the sentence is a quote from the Loving v. Virginia case, so therefore the citation is providing the source of the quotation and no signal is necessary. Finally, in this third example, the sentence refers to an authority in the text when the sentence says in Loving. Therefore, a citation is provided at the end of the sentence in order to identify the authority referred to in the sentence. Now let's cover the use of the C signal. Use C to introduce an authority that clearly supports but does not directly state your proposition. Here's a helpful tip. When deciding whether or not to use C, we look at whether the proposition isn't exactly in the authority you're citing, but obviously follows if you make just one inferential step. Here's an example where C would be appropriate. The federal statute addresses the issue of when a federal judge should disqualify him or herself from a case. As you can see, subsection A says that a judge should disqualify himself in any proceeding in which his impartiality might reasonably be questioned. If you wrote a sentence describing the statute's standard for disqualification as broad, we would need to use the C signal, because the statute itself doesn't say that it is a broad standard. But by taking just one inferential step, we can see that the standard is indeed a broad one because it applies any time a federal judge's impartiality might be questioned. Let's look at one more example using the United States Supreme Court decision Powell v. Alabama, a case about a defendant's Sixth Amendment right to counsel in criminal proceedings. As you can see in this excerpt, the court discussed the importance of having an attorney in criminal proceedings. Here is an example of a sentence we might write in a brief about this part of the case. The case clearly supports this sentence, but using the C signal is more appropriate than no signal because the court does not directly state that without counsel, defendant would be left to fend for themselves. Rather, we must make an inferential step. This concludes Blue Book video number 16.